I'm back from my trip. It's really me. I'm here, and I'll talk about my trip on the bonus show. But sort of a bummer to have to start my first show back with something so disgusting and despicable. But this is the reality of what's going on. If you want to get a sense, really an actual, real sense of where the Trump administration is going militarily, you have only to look at Mike Pence's speech over the weekend to West Point graduates. I'm going to show you a clip today, which cuts really to the heart of neoconservative American right-wing military aggression. This is the worst of the United States. This is a prime example of why so many around the world are disgusted with us. Listen closely to this one because it's not getting the attention that it deserves. This is from a speech that Mike Pence gave over the weekend at West Point, which is a military academy. It's one of 5 U.S. service academies, which are undergraduate schools for commissioned officers in the military. In the case of West Point, when they graduate, they have an 8-year commitment, 5 years of active duty, and then 3 years in the reserves. And that's relevant for what we're about to hear. Mike Pence spoke to the graduating class a few days ago and effectively let slip that multiple wars are in play and that graduates of West Point should expect to be joining those wars. Paul Waldman caught this and wrote it up in the Washington Post. And I went back and looked at the transcript, and it's sickening. Take a listen to what Mike Pence said.
It is a virtual certainty that you will fight on a battlefield for America at some point in your life. You will lead soldiers in combat. It will happen. Some of you will join the fight against radical Islamic terrorists in Afghanistan and Iraq. Some of you will join the fight on the Korean Peninsula and in the Indo-Pacific, where North Korea continues to threaten the peace and an increasingly militarized China challenges our presence in the region. Some of you will join the fight in Europe, where an aggressive Russia seeks to redraw international boundaries by force. And some of you may even be called upon to serve in this hemisphere. And when that day comes, I know you will move to the sound of the guns, do your duty, and you will fight.
It will happen. Afghanistan and Iraq. I thought we were out of Afghanistan and Iraq, other than exploring what our presence might be, never mind combat. The Korean Peninsula against North Korea or against a militarized China. What? We should be expecting that? We're going to fight in Europe, Mike Pence is talking about, fighting in Europe, this hemisphere, which to me means Latin America. My mind goes in the immediate to Venezuela, but there are other possibilities. And as Paul Waldman points out in the Washington Post piece, Pence is saying not just that more wars are inevitable in some general sense. He's talking about their inevitability during the time that these West Point graduates are going to be either in active or reserve duty. Now, the defenders will say, I know what they're going to come out and say, David, Pence isn't being specific. Pence isn't predicting. He's simply saying these are commissioned officers who lead troops. They are statistically likely to see combat. Well, that's not true. It has not been statistically likely that West Point grads see combat. And Pence is not speaking in generalities. He's talking about combat in Afghanistan and Iraq, 2 places we're supposedly leaving and to a degree have left. And the debate really has been about should or shouldn't the U.S. have a presence there and what should it look like and for how long. Mike Pence is talking about combat, leading troops in Iraq and Afghanistan. This should be front page news. Pence is talking about the Korean Peninsula and China. Remember that Trump said, we'll talk about North Korea again today, by the way. Trump said, we won't need combat with North Korea because Kim Jong-un is such a good guy and so trustworthy, and his sense of humor and his intelligence and everything is just so lovely, and Trump trusts him despite the continued missile launches, which we will get to. And yet Pence is saying you should expect that inevitably some of you are going to end up in a combat zone in the Korean Peninsula, maybe involving an increasingly militarized China, and then Europe. I mean, which we could do an entire show on. Pence talking about that as well. So 8 years. It's an 8-year commitment for these graduates after they finish up their 4 years at West Point. 5 years of active duty, 3 years in the reserves. And Mike Pence is saying it's very likely that in those 8 years, they will see combat in some combination of Iraq, Afghanistan, China, North Korea, Europe, and he says this hemisphere. I'm hearing Latin America. I'm hearing Venezuela. Maybe, I guess we could take a guess at where else we're thinking of. Cuba could be a possibility. I don't know. Pence is referring to this as if it is a foregone conclusion and a mere inevitability. It's a question of where will each of you end up rather than if. And this is part of the totally toxic and destructive. This is military industrial complex. This is neoconservative American foreign policy at its worst. It's all of these things that depend on and assume and are fueled by the tacit acceptance that it's just a matter of figuring out which wars we're going to get involved in or start, rather than actually evaluating whether we should be involved in these sorts of conflicts or engagements at all. Extremely disturbing, almost beyond words, and not reported widely, which is why I'm leading the show with it today. Today's program is sponsored in part by our friends over at LochNessCrypto.com. The team is based in Boise, Idaho, and they've made it their mission to help just everyday people navigate the world of cryptocurrency, and they've been doing it since 2012. They've actually been teaching a course about cryptocurrency at the Boise State Computer Science Department for years, and they've taken that curriculum and sort of packed it into an easy to digest course that's now available to anybody who wants it, called the Cryptocurrency Starter Kit. And this is the type of thing that crypto has really been lacking. And it's one of the reasons we maybe haven't seen adoption of currencies like Bitcoin and others on a larger scale. Normal people who are not tech experts need a step-by-step guide that's easy to understand about how they can get involved with cryptocurrency in a way that is sort of safe and manageable. And that's what the Cryptocurrency Starter Kit provides. It's a 5-part video series, which includes how to safely obtain cryptos, where to set up your accounts, how to protect those accounts from hackers, importantly, how to move crypto into physical hardware wallets, and also how to just prepare for the future of the space. You also get a free physical hardware wallet. It's sort of like a flash drive where you can safely store your Bitcoin or other cryptos offline. And you also get 1 hour of one-on-one phone or Skype mentoring with one of Loch Ness Crypto's experts. They're the only company in the crypto space that offers a service like this. And it all comes with the Cryptocurrency Starter Kit. They have a special offer specifically for the David Pakman Show audience. If you click the link under this video, you'll get $200 off the Cryptocurrency Starter Kit. Check it out using the link down below.